Okay, soon we should be starting. Okay, there we go. I'm seeing things. So hopefully soon you will see. Oh, no, it should be going. Oh, try refreshing. There we go.
Here we go.
How's the
Yep,
volume?
perfect.
Okay. Let me get a real quick drink here. Hello, everyone. Jared the Wyrd-Worker here. This is going to be my first live stream on YouTube. I'm both nervous and excited. Hopefully, a couple of people show up. Um, just to give you a little bit of background about myself, since I haven't talked about it lately, I have been a practicing witch for 2 decades. That doesn't make me some super knowledgeable person. That makes me an experienced person, but one experience isn't everything, and I still have a lot to learn. So hopefully, everyone can appreciate that. In this video, I've decided that I want to talk about deities and a pagan theology of deities. In paganism and witchcraft, there's this concept of deities. Now, I should note that not all witches believe in deities, nor do they all honor or worship them. Um, I am a theistic witch, which means that my witchcraft is wrapped up in my belief in deities and my honoring and working with deities, most specifically the goddess Freya, or as she's called in the old Icelandic, Froya. Um, so I just want to talk a bit about that. For other people who tend to take a more atheistic view or a view that deities are too much of a bother to mess with, um, this won't be as helpful. And I respect and honor those people as well. We all have our differences of opinion and our own practices. But since this is my channel, I'm going to talk about my practice. So, deities. First of all, what is a deity from a pagan perspective? And there's actually a number of answers. There's three very broad categories. There are those who see deities as nothing more than symbols. Oh dear, we're having resolution problems. Okay, hopefully that will correct itself when we get a chance. But yes, deities are, some people see them as merely symbols or archetypes that we tap into. They have no external reality of their own. Then there are those who view deities as a sort of, best summarized by Dion Fortune, who was actually a Christian, but her attitude was all gods are one god, all goddesses are one goddess, and all are one eternal divine. A lot of people see this, that, we might even see this so far as being that, the various names of gods and goddesses and other deities are just interchangeable names, all for the same being. This is often referred to as soft polytheism. Personally, I am what most people would call a hard polytheist. I believe that the individual deities have their own personality and are actually separate from one another. I should note at this point that these beliefs are not 100% mutually exclusive. You can have an assortment of beliefs and see the deities in different lights depending on what you're doing and how you're working with them. For example, I do have some soft polytheistic leanings that I do believe that ultimately all deities are part of the same divine source or the one eternal reality, just as we're all part of that same one eternal reality. That is a level of divinity that I won't be talking about much on this stream for, though, because I would like to focus on individual deities. I think another important thing to understand is that when we talk about deities and paganism, for the most part, there are exceptions. We're not talking about monotheistic or, omnipotent or omnipresent or omniscient beings. We are talking about, beings that do have limits, that do have, you know, requirements that they can't just do whatever they want. You know, they are bound by many of the same laws of the universe that humans are. Maybe they are better at, you know, bending them at places and times, but they just can't, you know, completely flout them and ignore them altogether. I think this is very important, and it's something that, in my opinion, makes polytheism make a lot more sense. Because if you believe that there are all these different gods out there, and you believe that they're all powerful and they can all do their own thing and whatnot, you end up with a huge mess. So we have that as well. So one of the common questions I get, especially from those who come from, and it's mostly Christianity, especially conservative forms of Christianity, like evangelical Christianity, and Catholicism would be another good example of, well, if your gods aren't all powerful, why worship them? It's an interesting question, but I don't put a lot of stock in it. To me, that would be like saying, you know, well, my friend can't do everything, so I have a friend. Um, and I do think that that is one of those things that makes a very good point that our deities are not like an all powerful God. They don't expect unquestioned obedience. They don't expect us to grovel before them. You know, we have a very different relationship with them. And I think that that's important as well to understand. So, why do I have the relationship I have with Freya? Well, the reason for that is that I get something out of that relationship. Just like I get something out of my friendships with people, just like I get something out of my marriage to Joe, who, by the way, is actually moderating the live chat for me right now. So thank you, babe. I love you very much for that. He's sitting right next to me. You can see him wave there a little bit. Um, there he is. Yeah. Always interesting watching yourself on delay. Anyway, so I get something out of it. For me, I get a sense of freedom and empowerment and a sense of love from Freya. I get that sense that, you know, like her, as some of her myths point out, you know, I have my own mind and I'm allowed to have my own mind, and I don't just always have to, you know, cater to what someone else has declared as the greater good. You know, I can go, hey, no, this is not right for me, and I don't think it's for the greater good, and I'm allowed to do that. So, you know, a big thing that I will know, and this is something that a lot of people don't understand, is that it is possible to have a relationship with deity that is not authoritarian, and I think that that's very important. Um, I will also say that I believe that the pagan deities need things from us. They get something out of the relationship as well. They are not all powerful. I think Gerald Gardner put it very well when he wrote in one of his books, I forget which one, that the gods of the witches want men to be happy, but they need men's help to make that happen, to bring about the happiness of all. And that's what I see, is that, you know, I work in partnership with Freya and the few other deities that I work with as a partnership to make the world a better place for myself, to make my life better, and to improve the lives and experiences of other people, you know. So that is one of the big reasons that I work with Freya and a few other deities. Odin, a little bit with Frey. Um, you will note that I'm mentioning mostly Norse deities. That's because that's where I'm most comfortable working with. I do believe it is possible to work with deities from different pantheons. I know I was watching another live stream a while back, a couple weeks ago, I think, that was very surprised when, you know, someone came up with the idea of, wait, you believe that multiple pantheons exist, that it's not just one pantheon? And it's like, well, yeah, why not? You know, I believe in multiple deities, so why not multiple families of deities? Um, and I think that's another interesting thing that I might go into a little bit here, is that, you know, pantheons, as I understand it, are a late stage development in pagan worship. And let me explain what I mean by that. You know, the gods of Olympus did not spring forth as a unified family in the minds of the Greeks all at once and suddenly. What happened is that individual villages and towns and even cities within Greece started worshiping various gods. You might have this village or this group of people over here worship Zeus, and this group over here worships Athena, and this group over here worships Poseidon, and they did their own thing. And they each had their own practice and their own rites and their own rituals and their own observances. Well, as Greece started coming together and these people started intermixing, this brought out this huge question. We have all these gods, all these deities, how do they relate to one another? And that's where the idea of a pantheon and the stories surrounding those pantheons came together. It became a way of, okay, we have all these individual gods that different people worship. Let's try to put some sort of order on them and put some sort of hierarchy on them, I suppose, although I'm not sure hierarchy is always the best way to go about it. But, how do they relate to one another? Do they all exist? Rather than, trying to decide, okay, only this God exists and all the other ones are fake. It's like, well, no. Let's create an understanding of, how they relate to one another. And you get into some interesting things like that. So, and that happened with different cultures. So you end up with a pantheon, the gods, that the Greeks worshipped, and how they interacted with one another, and the stories around that. Then you had the gods of the Norse and other Germanic peoples that were individually worshipped, and as the society built up, they came up with an explanation. Okay, how do Freya and Odin and Thor all relate to one another? Because again, now we need to understand. We have to live together. How do we understand? How we treat each other's deities and how we do that. And you have the same with the various Celtic tribes and whatnot. You have the various Celtic gods. You end up with stories building up around them and how they interact. So to me, and who knows, maybe someday, if paganism continues, and maybe there will be some sort of meta narrative about how all these different pantheons from these different ancient cultures interrelate and interact. There have been similar things done that, originally it was, okay, well, we'll try to, take this deity from this culture and this deity from this culture, and try to see how they're alike, and maybe they're the same deity. I'm personally not a huge fan of that because I think you end up erasing interesting individual qualities of those deities by saying that they're the same. There are a lot of similarities between some of the deities from different cultures, but there's some differences too. And I think that exploring those differences is one of the best ways to better understand deities and how to, you know, exist with them and learn more from them. I do think that's another thing. I think that there is a lot that we can learn from deities. I have learned a lot from Freya. Freya is one of the people who taught me the importance of grief and the grieving process, and actually honoring our sense of loss and honoring that when we lose someone or something that is precious to us, that we need to acknowledge that. Um, Anyways, so these have been a few random ideas on my thoughts. I hope that you have enjoyed this stream. I hope that you have found it interesting. If you have caught it in the recorded version, because this will be saved to my YouTube channel, I hope you will drop a comment and a like and everything else. And I will hopefully talk to you again sometime in the near future. Possibly next one will be another recorded video, but I hope to do some of these live ones every now and then too. So until next time we talk, blessed be.